Alvin Henderson is finally part of Auburn's 2025 class. Let's talk about it on this edition of the Uptempo podcast.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Let's go, Auburn family, Uptempo gang. Good morning, man. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Dustin Smith and Blake Lane with you guys as always to talk a little Auburn recruiting because the news just keeps on coming. Blake, we talked about this for the last couple of weeks, my guy. You've been saying all along, no shot Alvin Henderson actually goes up to Pennsylvania. And he didn't, buddy. Long away. It feels like 2 years coming, right? He's finally a part of the class, man. How are you doing this morning, brother?
I'm doing great. This was big news. We just kind of felt like that there was no shot that the small town kid from Alabama, right down the road from Auburn, not too far away, and you just always saw him on campus, and you always felt like he was a part of the class, even though he wasn't just yet. And that was my thing with him committing to Penn State. That's why I tweeted out, this is why we didn't fly off the handle when he committed to Penn State, is because you always saw him going back to Auburn. You always knew that there was something there, right?
Yeah.
So there was no reason to fly off the handle and be like, oh, Alvin, he committed to Penn State. Well, we come on here and we said, hey, look, we're done with it for right now. We're done talking about Alvin Henderson. But this thing will play out, and Alvin will be a part of the Auburn Tiger class. And sure enough, he continues to step foot back on campus, and now he is an Auburn Tiger. So, look, I don't – the Penn State stuff with him making the tweets and all that stuff, taking the shot at Auburn, don't pay attention to any of that. Look, he's a high school kid. He was living in the moment. It was just it's a game. It's a game. It's just part of the recruiting. And he was just, I took a visit to Penn State. I'm gonna sling off this tweet. I'm gonna get under the skin of some Auburn fans, and in a couple months I'll switch over to the good guys. Buddy wasn't about to make it. Excuse me. Buddy wasn't about to make his mom go to the airport, all right, 6-7 times a year and fly up to Pennsylvania. All right, it just wasn't going to happen. And he's home now. I think it's over. A lot of people think that, what if he does it again? What if he flips to Miami now or something? I think this thing is shut down. I think it's over. I think it's done. It is destined for him to be an Auburn Tiger. And when it comes to 1A football, 2A football, 3A football, whatever, the kid can play football, Dustin. And we had a former Auburn Tiger tweet out who was a 3A football player here in the state of Alabama, Mr. Kerryon Johnson. He said, hey, if you can ball, you can ball. All right. If you can play football, you can play. And you pop on the film of Alvin Henderson and the dude can ball. So, yeah, he might not be playing top-end competition, but you can tell the footwork, the speed, the power, it's all there. It's all there. I mean, he might not come in and pop day one, but eventually he's going to come in and he's going to get on the field. I throw this out there. Michael Dyer didn't play in the top-end competition at Arkansas, I mean, he come in from the private school league, and he was pretty damn good at Auburn. So, I mean, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to, well, he's playing this classification, because I'll give you one right here, Sammy Coates. Sammy Coates played at Leroy High School, folks. They don't play top-end competition. They were 2A, I believe, when Sammy was in school. Maybe 3A at the time. I can't really remember, but they weren't big. They'd never been big. And Leroy, they didn't play the Hoovers and the Opelikas and the Prattvilles and all that. They were playing little Cottage Hill Christian Academy and stuff like that. Mobile Christian, which Mobile Christian has grown over the years, but back in the day, Mobile Christian was small. They were playing the little private school teams down here in Mobile, and the Sweetwaters and things like that. So Sammy Coates turned out to be a pretty dang good one at Auburn, even though he played in a lower classification. So I don't pay too much attention to that stuff. It's all about hard work, work ethic, and what the kid wants to do, Dustin. So I'm all on board with Alvin Henderson, man. It's a great Sunday. I think, once again, you look at these recruiting rankings, and Auburn's climbing. They're climbing. They're climbing. And guess who you're right next door to? You're right next door to the Alabama Crimson Tide, Dustin. It's got to feel good. And they're making all the jokes about, 6-7, 3 consecutive losing seasons. You know what's crazy is we're right next to you after all of that. After all of that, we're knocking on your door saying, hey, we're here. We're here. Crazy to me, Dustin. I think I think the momentum at Auburn is through the roof right now. And Hugh Freeze and the staff, they're killing it.
Yeah. One thing to talk when you talk about the competition that he's at, level of competition, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, that meant a little bit more. But nowadays, when you have all these camps, you're going to find out, right? Like, for example, Alvin, if you watch this tape, they don't have a quarterback out of school, apparently, or maybe they feel like they just don't need one because their whole entire offense is him out the Wildcat. They snap him the ball, he goes left, right, or power up the middle. That's what they do. And if you see his stats right here on the screen, if you're listening on audio, these are not career stats. These are his junior season stats. And I don't care level of competition or not. If you can do this, then you're just stupid good. 3,523 yards for an average of 15.7 a carry. That's a first down and a half every time he touches the ball. 251.6 yards per game, 61 total TDs. Alvin has 140 total TDs in his high school career. It's just dumb. Like, it's just stupid. But I say that about him not having a quarterback because everyone that's seen him at camp said that one of his strengths of his game is pass catching, but it's just not something that he gets to display on Friday nights in the fall. It's just not something this team does. They're not passing the ball. They don't pass the ball at all. But when it comes to camps, he's one of the best pass catching running backs at every camp that he goes to. So you can look at it and say, Alabama, they don't play nobody, all this. And, well, then he goes up against the elite competition, and then he continues to show out. That's why he's a 4-star no matter where you look, and one of the top running backs in the state. So it's a big-time get. And another thing, too, man, is I see a lot of people throughout this recruitment, and I get it, like I probably said some of this stuff, too. But some people were really pounding home like, all right, man, I'm over it. I'm just over it. We're done with it. Well, Hugh Freeze is relentless. And I think one thing that he's shown you is, like, one, he's never going to give up. He's not phased when Cam Coleman commits to A&M and all. Okay, I'll see you at practice next week. He's not phased by any of this stuff, man. And when he pursues somebody like this for this long and just how relentless he was with Alvin, it let me know just how high Alvin was on Auburn's board compared to everybody else. You changed running back coach. Guess what didn't change? Alvin Henderson's still the top guy. And, the Penn State commitment probably doesn't ever happen if we don't make the running back coach change. But Caddy was his guy, and obviously Caddy was a great recruiter. So you kind of take a step back, and from the relationship standpoint, goes to Penn State. They're a good program, winning games. They have a nice history with running backs, So I can see you go up there, you get caught up, all this kind of stuff. I'm going to come here. Derek Nix just keeps working. You know what? I think I'm gonna stay home. And then another thing, Blake, too, is it seemed to me like when Auburn started bringing in other running backs on OVs, all of a sudden Alvin Henderson noise started turning back to Auburn, and that just makes me wonder if he was sitting there at home going, "Oh, they really might actually move on and just sign some other backs," because it just kind of got that point where it was like, "Hey, we got to do something here." But obviously he knew that, like, there's always going to be room for you. You are the number one guy, and a long time coming, but he's finally here. And just real quick on Alvin, the player, like, I think that the biggest thing that stands out to me on tape is the vision, the ability to find grass. Like, he doesn't have like burner type speed. He's quick, and he definitely, once he gets to his top end, he's moving. But he doesn't have like that just quick burst that, just game changing type agility. But he just has great vision. He finds the hole, he finds the gap. You kind of see there might be a little bunch right there, and then you're going to see Alvin just kind of shoot out of it. He's just nice and patient, kind of finds. And I mean, you mentioned Kerryon Johnson. Their game is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But still, he kind of has that patience aspect to it as well, and it's the ability to find the hole and get down the field. So very, very big for us, man. And now that he's in the class, we know that, okay, it's time to go find that little bit of a bigger back. Alvin coming in at 5'10". They want to go get a more of a bruiser style back to kind of complement what Alvin can do. And I think we'll just set up good, Blake. It's nice now. We got to start filling out these skill positions on offense in this class.
I'll tell you another thing about Alvin is everybody wants to knock at, who he played and everything. Dustin, he put up 300 yards rushing on the Leroy Bears this past year. And look, they lost. I think they lost by 3 in the playoffs or whatever. Leroy is one of the most dominant high school football program in the state of Alabama. All right. They consistently win state championships. So when, I get on Twitter and I see these people, oh, well, he plays 1A ball. It doesn't matter. It's not it's not it. Like Dustin said, when they go to these camps, these evaluators, these guys get paid to do a job. So they're at these camps and they're getting paid to evaluate these kids. They're not going to put their name under an article where it says, hey, Alvin Henderson is a 4-star running back. He has the potential to play for the next 3 to 4 years at a P4 school. They're not going to do that if they don't truly believe it.
Right.
They're just not going to go out there and write a false article and say, oh, let me post this just because I like this kid or what. No, they get paid to do a job. So everybody that's sitting here saying that this kid plays in this classification or whatever, I'll give you one from another sport. Zion Williamson played in the private school league in the Carolinas up there, all right? And he's one of the most dominant basketball players. So that all that stuff of he played here, it don't matter, man. If you can ball, you can ball. And yeah, Josh, that's it. No matter where you're playing, 3,500 yards and 61 TDs is insane. It's insane. And look, Alvin wanted to be an Auburn Tiger. So staying home, repping your state, I think that's huge. And like Dustin said, y'all, just the Hugh Freeze being relentless and just continuing to just go after kids. I think that played a big role in this. Like Alvin wanted to see how big of a priority he was. Like Dustin said, when you lost Cadillac, okay, are they going to give up on me, or are they going to keep pushing? Are they going to keep coming? And I think Derek Nix and Hugh Freeze made him a priority. And finally, he was like, yeah, they proved to me that they really want me. And I just wasn't a Cadillac guy. I was an Auburn guy. They wanted me. So, I mean, I see some of the comments over here saying that they never thought that Hugh Freeze would be this, be like this in recruiting. And y'all, I'm with you. Like, Hugh Freeze is killing it. He's knocking it out of the park. It's to lose to New Mexico State on your home field by 3 scores, and to come in and you're about to wrap up a top 5 class. Insane. It's unheard of.
Yeah, it's just really impressive, man. I think that we saw from day one when Hugh came in that the way he built his staff full of recruiters, and now when you go out and get TJ Durkin, because again, Ron Roberts did a good job on the field last year, but he was not really a big recruiter. You go out and you get DJ Durkin, who is going to get in there and recruit guys. Bryce Diaz, he worked him out privately and said, this is a guy I got to have. And Bryce Diaz gets a couple hours down the road and calls, and I got to commit. I love it. Charles Kelly, Eric Winters put Charles Kelly in his commitment graphic. That tells me just about everything I need to know about that one. Okay. And Eric Winters is an absolute stud. And we know that Charles Kelly can identify him and bring him in. He's built a staff, man, just from the ground up to be so focused on recruiting. And then for the first time in a very long time, I'm going to have to ask my whole evil booster crowd out there, everybody that hates our evil boosters, where y'all at? Where y'all at? You think you can do this in this day and age with boosters that are trying to sabotage a program, which has always been the claim from a certain section of Auburn fans? Everyone's moving in the same direction right now. You can't really argue that because you can't get a top 5 class in this day and age if you're not. Look what happened at Florida. They had a quarterback that they offered money to that they didn't really have money for, which how do you think that happens? It wasn't one guy messed up. They messed up as a program. They thought this was there. They thought all these things were in place. A bunch of mistakes have to be made to get to something like that.
Yep.
And despite all the mess that we've seen Auburn get in through over the years, since its transition, since the NIL era has came over, we haven't heard a peep about Auburn doing anything wrong. You've heard no, which I mean doesn't matter because you can just kill the NCAA in court anyway now. But still, Auburn's done everything by the books the right way, and is doing it at a high level and very well. So yes, dude, like shout out to Hugh Freeze. I'm with you 100% that I didn't think it was going to be this big this early. I thought that there was going to have to be a little more proof of concept on the field before you started knocking on the door of top 5. But as we look at the class rankings, Blake, now I did make these like 20 minutes before Micah DeBose committed to Alabama yesterday. So if Auburn's moved a spot or two because of that, my apologies. But overall, like I know that didn't shift us a whole lot, if at all. So according to the 3 major services on 3, Auburn's sitting 7th, 24/7 has us in the top 5, and then Rivals has us sitting right there at 6. So, and I think we're sitting here at 16 commitments currently. So it's just. You can go back to 2 years ago where we had like 2 or 3 guys committed at this time. And we're sitting right here, y'all, with our biggest recruiting weekend still a couple weeks away. We still got Big Cat on the horizon, and we know that big things happen at Big Cat weekend. So I just think that before the season comes around, man, Auburn is going to be probably inside the top 25 at every service you look. If not, we're already knocking on the door. We're going to be right there. And then watch these 26 commitments that are coming in over the next month, because our guy Charlie 5 is not being shy about it. He said Auburn's going to finish with the top class in 2026. I won't go that far, but boy, it's lining up to where it's easily going to be inside the top 5. And if you come out this year and you have more wins and losses, and the program seems to be, because that's the big part of this too, Blake, is Auburn as a program is gaining a bunch of momentum right now.
Yep.
So when we kick that ball off versus Alabama A&M, Hugh Freeze will have done everything that he could possibly have done from the moment the clock struck 0 in Nashville. We were all super disappointed in that performance. You can't win any games between that time period, obviously. So what can you do? There's other things you can do to build momentum, and he has knocked all of those things out the park. Made the right hires and broadened and just we see what he's doing on the recruiting trail. So he's done everything he could. But at some point, ball's going to matter again. And when we get to that point, if we put together something, and I'm going to keep saying this, it doesn't have to be a playoff run. It doesn't have to be this spectacular, one of the greatest seasons in Auburn history. It doesn't. An 8-4 regular season would show so much improvement. Yep. And then you put that with the recruiting momentum, that 26 class could really be a monster. And then you look at it and you're going to have to ask yourself eventually, okay, we've got 2 or 3 classes now that are all inside the top 7, top 8. It's time to roll, baby. Yep. This is how you do it, Blake. I think that we're in the middle of the rebuilding of the Auburn program.
Yeah, and I think it's Steven, I see your comment over here. Look, one thing I want to do is be fair to our head coach, because our head coach was straight up with us. He was honest from the get-go. And I know the losses last year, the way we ended, it hurt, right? It was painful to watch us go through that, the way we went about it. It hurt. But he's been honest with us from the get-go. And he said, hey, look, we're in a dark hole, deep. It's not good where we're at right now. And he was honest about it. He was straight up, don't expect us to come out and just start winning games. And I think right now, even though you're having all this success, top 10 class last year, these kids are still puppies. So this year, we still have to be somewhat patient. Now, if we come out and we go 5-7 or we lose to Cal and Arkansas, then I think we could,
Yeah.
you start getting a little frustrated and everything. But if we come out and go 7-5, we still have to. You gotta hit the patience button, all right, and you gotta say, hey, look, we're building something. It takes time. It's a process. Auburn was so far behind, so far behind. I mean, the Brian Harsin thing. Go back to the Mizzou game at home. That's how far behind we were. It was just a pitiful showing. We didn't deserve to win that game. I mean, it was just we were behind. Our roster was so off. It's not SEC caliber. And you got to give Coach time to get it right. And he's doing that. Look, Juju Lewis tweets a lion the other night, and we start going crazy that it's a big cat. All right. It's a big cat. All right. Juju Lewis. Is he coming to big cat? I mean, you're in the running for the number 1 on some site, number 2 on some sites, quarterback in the country. Let that sink in. You know how much we've struggled with QB in the past, and we're in the running for this kid. And let's look at the visit he took to Boulder this weekend. Dustin, I'm going to take a shot at everything they got going on out there because that was the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life. We want Juju chants with 8 people standing out there with glittered signs. We want Juju. All right. This company, they make a burger for Juju. I mean, to me, man, that'd be like Sheila C's saying, "Hey, we're making a Juju burger." It's just cringe to me. Like, that's the way you go about it. I just don't see the Boulder move for Juju, and I think Auburn's just rolling and recruiting right now. There's so much energy. You brought up the Eric Winters and the graphic, man. Like Charles Kelly, he brings a guy in, and it's probably going to be a depth piece. But that's just you're just seeing the guys gravitating towards Auburn.
Yeah,
and so
was it Jahaz Robinson, the transfer from Colorado?
Yeah, and so we sit here and we say, well, when is it going to go to the field? When are we going to start winning games? I still want to be fair to Hugh Freeze and give him the time because he laid it out to us. 2025 was his year that he pinpointed and said, hey, that's the year I want to go after it all. If it doesn't happen after 2025, I get it. Like, it's the era that we're in. If you don't have immediate success, you want to start firing people. So, yeah, I just want to be fair to him when we start saying, hey, we got to start winning games, everything. I'm with Dustin. 8-4, we're throwing a party. And we're saying, hey, something great is happening here. We're turning this program around. Let's keep making changes to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Let's keep bringing in these top-tier athletes. And let's start competing for national championships again.
Yeah, I mean, look, athletes, they know. All these guys that compete on the same circuits, they all know what it is. They see dogs coming to Auburn. They all know, hey, that guy can ball. I played against him. I went up against him in the 7-on-7. And he still got guys coming down the pipe, too, like Fagans. I watched Antoine Fagans at the 7-on-7 championships in Tampa. That came on the NFL Network. I sat there all day, watched that, and was just like, you sure this is a 4-star? Like, this might be a 5 right here. I know it's 7-on-7, but like literally just doing everything out there, making other elite prospects look silly. That's a guy that Auburn is like heavily favored for. Still about a month ago before his commitment date, but right now everything's trending well for Auburn. So I'm just saying, like, there's more coming. But to your point, Blake, they're puppies, and it takes puppies time to grow and turn into dogs. So we have to be patient because we don't play a puppy schedule.
Yep.
We play the big boys, right? And even this year, like when you see Missouri, and traditionally you think, okay, this should be a dub for Auburn. Well, this year going to Missouri is not the dub for Auburn.
Yep.
And it happens to be in a stretch where we have 3 really tough road games in a row of Georgia, then Mizzou, then at Kentucky. Like, that's going to be a hard stretch for Auburn. And the Oklahoma game right before Georgia is not going to be easy. I mean, Oklahoma won 10 games last year. Auburn has not proven to me or to any of y'all, if you're being honest with yourselves, that they can beat a 10-win team, whether it's at home or on the road, whatever. So that's why we've got that game circled as such an important game, because that's when we're really going to find out what it's all about. So, it's just everything's there, Blake. Everything's there. But I'm with you. We do got to kind of be fair to Hugh. For me, there's not even a win total on this year necessarily I'm looking at. I do want to finish with a winning record. But I'm gonna kind of take the same stance I took last year, man. To me, it matters more how it looks this year, because I'm not expecting 9-10 wins, so I'm not gonna put this ultimatum on a win total. I just want to be able to look at the end of the season and say, hey, everything that was happening on the field made sense. Maybe the athletes weren't there, or maybe they weren't necessarily ready to make the big play in the big moment because they're a true sophomore or true freshman or whatever it is. But I can see it coming. I didn't get that feeling last year because obviously it was a shit show between Hugh and Philip Montgomery. No one left at the end of the season going, oh, that was headed in the right direction. Actually, our head coach stood at the podium after the bowl game and said, I screwed this year up. This offense was bad. So that's where I'm looking at this year. I'm not looking at it and saying, okay, we got to win 9 games.
Yep.
I just want to be able to sit back at the end of the season and say, the plan is in place. The foundation is here, because I know we're talking about Alvin Henderson today. We're all excited about the player he's going to be. He's still got to play his senior season of high school, much less get to Auburn, then develop, figure out the college game. I'm with Blake on this, man. I think that the real timeline for Hugh, as far as actually kind of looking at wins and losses, is that 25-26-ish. Now, but if it just looks incompetent, it looks ridiculous like it did at times last year, again this year, then that's going to speed up the process. Because this is what we always said about, and please don't hear this and say that I'm calling Hugh Freeze potato head. I'm not, okay? I'm not. But this was the stance that we always had to take with Brian Harsin, and I also understand that the recruiting was night and day different, okay? But the reason why he went out so quick was because we knew, it looked so bad. So all I'm saying is, I just use that as an example of the process. The hot seat process can speed up if things necessarily if it's not just about wins and losses. Like if we're switching out quarterbacks again on 3rd and 1, and that's leading to false starts and losing us games, at some point everyone's going to kind of start scratching their heads and going, hey man, when is this going to start looking like it's supposed to look? So that's just kind of my stance on all that, dude, is let's get this thing moving in the right direction. But like Blake said, remain patient, because it's going to take time to win games in this conference. These kids that we're bringing in are ballers. They got to develop.
I also think it can't get to like it was last year, where just say Auburn's sitting at 6-4. You got 2 games left, and you have an opponent like, I don't know who's in that slot this year, but last year it was New Mexico State. All right. And you got Alabama. You can't go in and get blown out by whoever in that slot this year. And then you can't go to Bryant-Denny and lose, and then go to a bowl game at 6-6 and lose again. It can't happen like that again this year, because Auburn had the opportunity to go 8-4 last year, and this thing would have skyrocketed, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. You're on a 3-game winning streak.
Yeah,
blowing out Arkansas.
Come on now, and it's it can't happen like that again this year. It's gotta. I think you got to close out the season with success. And look, we've been getting blown out in Bryant-Denny. Maybe if we don't win, it'd be a close competitive game, like late in the 4th quarter. If you lose by a touchdown, maybe 10 points, something like that, where you just say, hey, look, Auburn finally went into Bryant-Denny and didn't get slapped around since 2010. So I think you got to go to the bowl game and you got to win. Last year when we were playing Maryland, that's why we put so much emphasis on This is a huge game. A lot of people in the country are saying, hey, bowl games don't matter. I felt like it mattered for Auburn.
Matter to me.
Yeah, because we've been down so bad, and it mattered. And I guess I don't know if the kids just felt like it didn't matter. The coaching staff just kind of felt like, well, the season's finally over. There's going to be changes. Let's get this over with. I don't think it can end the way it did last year. This year, I think you got to have some success down the end of the season, and especially going into the off season, into that recruiting period. So, that's the thing that I worry about is I don't want it to be as ugly as it was, especially in the bowl game. Like, we took center stage. You're on national TV. You're playing Maryland, a team that you should beat 10 out of 10 times, in my opinion, and you let their backup quarterback, both of them, come in there and dog walk you. Made it look easy. And I think that's why it's so impressive for what Auburn's doing right now in recruiting, is because these kids watch this. They've watched what you've done on the field, and they're still saying, hey, man, I want to play for those dudes. I want to play for them because they're building something. So for us to even be in this conversation of when are we going to put it on the field, these recruiting classes are getting stacked. That's wild to me, that we're just bringing in elite talent.
Yeah, I think some guys just get it, right? Like if we follow college football long enough to know, like you look at a guy like Dan Mullen and you say, okay, I don't know if he necessarily gets it when it comes to recruiting. Can he put together a good team? Can he put together a good offense with all the right pieces? Yes, he can. And he did nice work at a program like Mississippi State. But you ask that question, can he recruit on that elite level? And he gets to Florida and you find out he can't. Hugh gets it, bro. Like Hugh, we're seeing right now with all the resources available to him, what he can do. And we knew this when he was bringing in top 10 classes to freaking Ole Miss, like, right there. Okay, this guy's got it. And now you see, like I said, well, he's got this facility, he's got this NIL collective and On to Victory that's really got their stuff together, and it's all kind of working out. So, yeah, man, it's we're headed in the right direction. Devin says she is excited to see the coaching matchup in the Iron Bowl. It's going to be, to Blake's point about how we performed in Bryant-Denny, the best offensive performance we put up in Bryant-Denny in a while was a game plan thrown together by Ike Hillard, Will Friend, and Cadillac Williams. So, yeah, it's time to go in there and show like we belong in that building.
I think the last time that we didn't get just absolutely embarrassed in Bryant-Denny was 2014.
Yeah, we've still lost by 11.
Yeah, we lost by, and we gave up 55.
It was 55 to 44.
After picking Blake Sims off 3 times. But I'll never forget. I was there in Bryant-Denny that night, and I knew we lost the game right before halftime when Nick threw it up to Sammy. Sammy come down with it. He got tackled on like the 2, and we couldn't score. We had like a minute left, and Gus is like letting the clock run down, and I'm like, what are we doing, and we ended up having to kick a field goal. And that right there, I was just like, we lost, you can't go into Bryant-Denny and kick field goals and expect to win games. Just not how it happens. So I think it is big for DeBoer and Hugh Freeze, because like I told you a couple weeks ago, if Hugh Freeze walks into Bryant-Denny and DeBoer gets him by 3 touchdowns, the talk in this state is going to be wild. You might as well just trash the Twitter. Just go ahead and delete it off your phone, because that side of it is going to be absolutely wild, because the Husky Harsin jokes are going to come out. All right. They're going to be throwing that in the face and all that. So it is a big deal. It's going to play out in Bryant-Denny. That's why it's always going to be number 1 on our list when we rank Auburn's schedule. And I think it's got a little extra sauce to it just because of what DeBoer brings. And I think Hugh's got to get him and establish like, hey, we're recruiting the state right now. We're going to keep this in Auburn's favor. So I don't think Auburn's going to get dog walked in Bryant-Denny this year. I think they're going to be competitive, and I think it's going to be another classic Iron Bowl.
Yeah, and to this point, and you can kind of even take this back to the overall on the field recruiting message, but specifically looking at the Iron Bowl, I'm sure that the staff and you were telling some of these kids, hey, man, like we're literally a knocked ball away. If we knock down a Hail Mary, we beat them.
Yep.
If we get you guys, then we're not even in that position. We're already up and we're kneeing the ball out. Like we just need you to get over that hump versus Georgia and Bama. And you can sell that in year one when you lose 2 close games to those programs. But eventually, if you don't start beating those teams, it becomes harder and harder to make that sell. Got a couple more comments and then we're going to get out of here. Brett asked, are bowl games important to you guys? I'm old school in a lot of ways and grew up in a time when they were very important and everyone played. And then I wanted to, me and Blake will both answer that, but then a nice response to that. Madison says, it seems like it certainly mattered to Maryland. Absolutely, bowl games matter when your program is down and you want to get momentum going into the next season. Thankfully, this is a great recruiting staff, War Damn Eagle. And Madison, I agree with you. And, Brett, I'm with you too, man. Just from the standpoint of like, first off, as a college football fan, growing up, bowl season was the thing, bro.
Yep.
Like the thing. I'm out of school for 2 weeks for Christmas break. And we got bowl games all day, baby. And me and Pops were just sitting there in the living room watching them, dude, and never got tired of it, never got bored of it. If you got you one on January 1st, you knew you had yourself a good season. Like, yeah, I miss that. I definitely miss that. Everybody was playing. They wanted to win. It was their last game, for their collegiate team and all that kind of stuff. So I hate that kind of direction it's gone. But a point that Blake's made a lot and really going before the Music City Bowl was look at Alabama. What happened the year that they didn't make the playoffs? Bryce Young, Will Anderson, they made the decision that we're still going to show up, first round draft picks be damned, and we're going to win this bowl game. And we don't want to hear that it doesn't matter because it's going on the record and there's going to be a trophy presented at the end of the game. And I'm on the roster and I'm healthy enough to play. So crazy theory here. I'm going to show up and play for my team when they have a game that counts on the record. As long as games count, as long as they count on their overall record, I'm going to care about it in the same way that I care about every other game.
Yep.
Counts on the record. It goes on the record. Like no one's saying that Auburn went 6-6 last year. No one says that. No one says that Auburn went 6-6 their first year under Brian Harsin. It's 3 losing seasons in a row. So yeah, I care a whole lot. And to your point, Madison, good programs care. A healthy program cares. But let's kind of take a step back to where Auburn was that day in Nashville. We know now that we had coaches fighting. We had players ready to transfer off the defense if the DC wasn't removed. Those are just a few things, right? What did Rivaldo Fairweather tell you in the post game about players not caring? So you can kind of find out where a program is mentally by how serious they take a bowl game that doesn't matter. Blake?
I'll be straight up with you. All of you in here, bowl games matter. Bowl games matter. And I hear a lot of people say, and I'm okay with it, but if you're a first round pick, sitting out a bowl game should be okay. Now, if you do this, I am okay with it. If it's a Sun Bowl, and you're a solidified first round pick, I'm not gonna gripe and say, oh, you should play. Me personally, I want you to play. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from, though. All right. The way I was brought up was my dad always told me, you finish what you started. All right. So if you were lucky enough to get noticed by a program and they offer you a scholarship to come to their school to play football for them or baseball or basketball or whatever sport, golf, tennis, doesn't matter. If they offer you a scholarship to come and represent that university, you finish what you started. And if it was just me and my last opportunity to go out there and wear that stormtrooper uniform, I would have to do it. because it's the university that gave me a shot to even get in that position to be in the NFL draft. That's the reason I respect the hell out of Bryce Young, is because he knew he was going number one. He knew he was going to the Carolina Panthers, and he played in a meaningless game. At this time, I was doing a little podcasting with Belly Up, all right? And I went on a show, a college football show. They asked me to say, hey, come on here and talk about Alabama. How do you feel they fare against K-State in the Sugar Bowl? So I went on there and I told them, I was straight up. I was like, hey, Bryce Young and the gang, they're playing. I said, they're about to embarrass Kansas State. You want to know why? I said, because it's the difference of the programs. There's a standard at that program where Bryce Young walked in there and he said, hey, I'm playing. Because why? Dustin said it still goes on the record, right? When it goes on the record, that's the standard over there. So they walk in and say, hey, we're playing. I don't care if I'm going number one. I'm playing because I started this thing with my brothers, the blood, sweat, tears, everything that we went through in summer workouts, fall camp, everything. We're going to finish it. We're going to raise that Sugar Bowl trophy and show these people, even though Alabama didn't make the college football playoff, we're still something, and we're going to beat the hell out of Kansas State. That's why bowl games matter to me, is because you finish what you started. You try to go out and get a win for your university. There's too much of this sitting out stuff and I'm hurt. I don't want to play in the bowl game and all this stuff. It's the era we live in, and it's being taught in high school now, where you can't escape it, man. It's I don't know what it is. Like, I saw a kid in Mobile the other day make a commitment video transferring high school to high school, sat at a table with hats on the table and said, I'm transferring to Faith Academy to win championships. What are we doing as parents? What are we teaching? I'm a parent. All right, I got a 6-year-old daughter and a couple of days away from being a 1-year-old son, and I can tell you right now, we ain't never making no videos like that. Period. Never. Because we're gonna finish what we started. We're gonna do it the right way. You play, man. You give that university everything because they gave everything to you. And I feel like that in the NIL era. If these universities are giving you all this money to play, damn it, you give your heart to that university. You give everything. And it's just, I think it all starts at home. You gotta get it at home, man. You gotta do it the right way. And we've gotten away from it a little bit, but hopefully, we can get back there and these new age kids can come in here and they can get the program back on the map, Dustin. And it might mean something to a Perry Thompson and these guys to get Auburn back on the map. Cam Coleman, a local favorite, right up the street from Auburn in Phoenix City. It might mean something to Cam Coleman to show up and play out the entire season for the Auburn Tigers, just to lay the groundwork to get Auburn back in that position. And that's what it means to me. That's why bowl games matter to me.
Yeah, for sure. The Walker Show makes a good point here. He says, especially going from 7-5 to 8-5 looks better on the resume. Yeah, and it's kind of like think back to Auburn. I believe it was 2006 where we went 11-2 and won the Cotton Bowl, beat Nebraska in the Cotton Bowl. Kenny Irons had a hell of a year that season. 10-3 versus 11-2 and winning that Cotton Bowl. Like, anybody that was an Auburn fan at that time, you remember that year. Hey, 11 wins, won the Cotton Bowl, like, beat our rivals. That's a solid year. That Cotton Bowl meant a lot. I still remember it. It's a big-time bowl game. It's a big-time win. And again, like, one game can make a big difference there. You lose that bowl game, you're 7-5, you go into a bowl game. You lose it, you're 7-6. versus 8-5. Those look a lot different. I agree with you, Walker. So
Yep.
that's a very good point. Ryan says there is no way in hell I would play in a bowl game at the end of my college career, knowing that it could jeopardize millions of dollars and my future long-term success. No way. I hear you. The problem here's and like Blake said with the he said like first round, right? For me personally, like after like your first round, whatever. Again, I'm not gonna say what I just said again. Counts. It counts. You're on the team. Play the game. I understand this point, and I get that I'm saying this to somebody that's not in that position. My rebuttal to this, Ryan, is that now you have guys that are like 5th and 6th round picks, and knowing that they're going to go like super late in the draft, 7th round projected type guys that are sitting out of bowl games. And then I've got walk-ons out here on a bowl game, primetime ESPN. I got walk-ons on one team versus walk-ons on the other team because a bunch of guys that might get drafted on day 3 are sitting out. Like at some point, man, it's, but what they can do with this is we're going to revenue sharing soon, and you're going to be under contract. And if I'm the school and you're signing a contract with me, if we're playing a game that counts and you're healthy, you're going to need to be there. And then Ryan, this is our show, brother.
Yeah, I want to say something real quick. All right, so I'll take you back 2 years ago. And talking about our arch rival. They were in the biggest game of their season in the national championship. A guy coming off that team was a first-round draft pick, was one of the best wide receivers in the country in the national championship game, tore his ACL. Jameson Williams. All right. He played. It mattered. All right. He was going in the first round. Yeah, it was the national championship game, but he got hurt. Injuries happen, dog. Like at any given time, you can get hurt. It doesn't matter. You play. You play. You signed your name on the dotted line to give that school everything you got. You play, in my opinion. That's me. And the way the money these kids are making now, I don't want to hear you jeopardize your future because some of these cats are getting $8 million. Some of these cats are getting $8 million. Nico Lamalovea up at Tennessee for NIL. You play, man. You play. You finish what you started. Be a Bryce Young. Be a Will Anderson. Be a Dallas Turner. Be those guys. But that's just the standard of the program. You think Nick Saban walks them kids in the office and says, hey, man, you ain't got to play today. You ain't got to play. It's all good. You just sit this one out. Nah. Alabama, that's why they're built like that. That's why they're the greatest program in college football history. That's just I just want to give you something to just kind of put yourself up against.
Yeah, if you're going to be listening to this podcast, look, we're always going to be like fair to like players are humans, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, you making a lot more money than I'm ever going to see to play college football now. It's going to be like you can spare me. Well, they're kids. Like, bro, you're getting paid a lot of money if you're healthy and expecting to show up. And Ryan says, if you were serious that you would risk your future over one last hurrah, you don't deserve your future. I would ask you, do you feel this way about Derek Brown? Because he played in a bowl game for us that we didn't win, and now he is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. It didn't jeopardize his future whatsoever. He wanted to just show up and play for Auburn because that's the kind of character and kind of man he is. So I respectfully disagree with you, brother. Let's see what else we got on here before we get out of here. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not. I know there was one more point that I wanted to get to. Let's see. Brett says, I know it may change down the road, but seeing AU ahead of UGA on the 247 rankings makes me happy. It's wild, Brett. It's wild, but I don't really know what to say. I'm just as shocked as you, man. I'm just as shocked as you, especially considering our lack of success versus that program and where they've been, and it's just kind of the obvious thing to say here, Brett, as we round out the discussion today is, when the wins start coming, is anybody going to be recruiting better than Auburn? Because we're already up there with the best, and all those other guys are competing for playoff spots. Future's bright, man. The future's bright. Before we get out of here, Blake, a lot of commitments have happened. I know, real quick. Brett asked about Scroggins. Felt like it was funny. Before we went live, I was actually getting some stuff ready for our members because his announcement was Tuesday, and everything has been pretty public, right? Not breaking news here that he was trending for Auburn. And before we went live, about 20 minutes before we went live, he tweeted out he is postponing his commitment. So, Brett, I don't know. We will try to find out and, definitely let you guys know. Got to record the Alvin Henderson podcast for you guys here shortly because we got some more commitments coming. And Blake, I know you did a member pod this week. I did a member pod this week, really pumping them out. Tell the people what they're going to get, man, if they sign up for one of these memberships and how to do it.
Man, that $3.99 a month JV squad. We're shouting out member shout outs, priority reply to comments, to super chats. If you throw them in here, you will be first up on screen. Early access to videos. We're trying to make a couple more videos that aren't live and give you members the early access and everything like that. So we've been putting them in the chamber. And then $5.99 a month, that varsity squad. This is where you get the game day group chat on Twitter, the recruiting update videos. Dustin and myself, we have both made one last week. It was pretty fun, and I enjoyed talking stadiums. Top 10 USA Today made a list, and Dustin on his recruiting videos, he's always killing it. Gameplay with you, we are so close to EA Football 25. It is right around the corner, just a couple weeks away. Get with us. We'll start mapping out what teams we want to pick for this online dynasty and everything. I guess we got to start charting all that, and that'll be a fun little process. So there you go, man. Your memberships, we got 2 available right there. We're pumping out content. This fall, we're going to be in the high school games on Friday nights. I'm sure Dustin will go to a couple of his guys. We'll go to some together. I'll go to some of mine, and all this stuff. We'll be getting elite content and some videos up, making some more, recruiting videos and all that good stuff. So we appreciate each and every one of you who have subscribed and are members. It's been a hell of a ride. It's been fun. We're growing. I looked at how many members we had the other day, just to think that we when we started this, when we come to the War Report the other day, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary with the War Report. We had 200 subs.
It was like 212 or something.
That. And now we're almost to 2,000 subs, and we had 0 members, and now we're almost to 50 members, and we have just enjoyed it, and we've met new people, and we've become family with some of you, and especially in this game day group chat. I've told some of you things of that's going on with my son or my daughter, and we've connected on that personal level, and we've become really, really close. And so that's the side of it that I really enjoy, off of the Auburn stuff and everything like that. It's just been that kind of relationship with y'all, and I think each and every one of you, I know, Auburn Dad, we're constantly praying for you, brother. Like, we're family, and each of y'all that have donated to Auburn Dad, or just praying for him on your prayer list. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we're praying for you, brother, and we're not going to stop. We're always here, man.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff tonight, guys. Appreciate you, Blake. Listen, if you're ever on that audio, leave a 5-star review.
Yeah.
Subscribe to this podcast. If you have not, man, smash that thumbs up button. Shout out to I believe it was the cabinet guy for my dad, Blake. Pops called me the other day. I was at work. He said, "Hey, you got a minute?" I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He said, "Cabinet guy's a big fan of the show. Just wants to talk to you and give you a war damn." So, man, shout out to you, buddy. He said he'd be listening. Yeah, he said he'd be listening on the next one. I told him I'd give him a shout out. And I want to get to Ryan real quick. Ryan says, "Great show, by the way. I'm really enjoying you guys. I've been watching more and more. Keep it up." Hey, man, we don't have to agree on everything. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for listening, man. We appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. And I'll end with Ernest. Ernest says, "We ain't done yet." No, sir, we are not. Hugh Freeze and company are not done yet. More commitments are coming on the way. Me and Blake are not done yet. We will see y'all Tuesday night, 7 p.m. War Damn Eagle. We're out of here, y'all.
War Damn.